More chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
It's Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Trundle for options, put it back to Morrell. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morrell. What a chance! What a goal! What a goal from Al Robson Carnham! Folks, good wicket kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagate, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
And here's Mendy! There's that race-class roar again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast, one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. In a week when police say a driver made an own goal by dangerously driving with an unsecured football net on top of their car. Hertfordshire Constabulary shared a video on social media of the incident where the driver pulls out of a junction with a goal fully assembled on top of the vehicle. The car is seen pulling over quickly after the police approach, with the frame visibly not properly secured. The force said on social media, "While this clip may have made you laugh or gasp, there's a serious side. The goal was not properly secured and could have easily caused a collision." In the UK, driving with an insecure load is illegal and classed as dangerous. Serious cases may even lead to prison. According to the police, the driver was docked 3 points from their licence and ordered to pay a £120 fine and a £48 victim surcharge. A spokesman for Hertfordshire Police said that the incident took place on the 12th of May last year, around 8 minutes past 6 p.m. in Boreham Wood. They added that the driver recently attended court, where they were given the penalty. Yeah. Not sure whether VAR will help this one, to be honest with you. Maybe they need some crap analysis from these two. It's Jamie and Daz.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
Oh dear!
I love that they were given the penalty. I don't think that was a pun either. I think they meant that, and then yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, hello, Daz. Welcome back from the wilderness. How was Wrexham?
I was up there north.
How's the stand looking?
Yeah, I mean, stand's looking really good. I mean, like I said to you, I can't believe, it is going to be a sizable beast of a stand, and it's going to make the rest of the stadium look dwarfed by the size of it. It's going to be very odd that it's all so one end as well. I know a lot of stands have a grandstand and the main stand. Ellen Road, I've been going past Leeds last week as well. I could see that they got one big stand and then the rest is all much lower. But it's down the side. It's just but it's good. It's coming along. Everybody seems to be there were people working. There was nobody having a cup of tea. So all good.
So there shouldn't be either for the price we're paying for it. Moving on from last week. And as we're recording this is still up in the air. Southampton will be playing in the Championship next season after they were expelled from the playoffs following their admission that they spied on 3 league rivals this season. In addition, they will start next season on -4 points after the EFL charged them with watching training sessions of Oxford United and Ipswich Town, in addition to filming Middlesbrough as they prepare for the first leg of their playoff semi-final on May the 7th. Southampton have appealed, with their hearing being heard As we record now, the whole saga came under the spotlight after Middlesbrough reported Southampton for spying on a training session as they prepared to meet each other in the playoff first leg. And then the Saints were then charged by the EFL on May the 8th for breaking 2 regulations. EFL Regulation 3.4, which requires clubs to act towards each other with the utmost good faith, and EFL Regulation 127, which prohibits any club from observing or attempting to observe another club's training session within 72 hours of a scheduled match between the 2 clubs. Further charges were issued on Sunday the 17th in relation to additional breaches during the 25-26 season. What's interesting is of the other matches that they observed, they lost in the Oxford United game when they drew in the Ipswich game. So there you go. It obviously did a lot of good. Daz, we didn't get your take on this last week. This is a mess, isn't it? This is an absolute dog's dinner of a mess. Yes, I think it is.
Did you ask that question to me?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Can I just explain? I just switched networks, so you guys disappeared for a second, and then I've just moved on to a different network, and then I thought you were talking to Jamie, to be honest. Also, my laptop is obviously so knackered; it's now buckled or something, so the trackpad doesn't work. So I've had to get a mouse out from someone. I'm having a nightmare with the IT over here.
Sounds like it.
Anyway, a dog's dinner of a mess. Yes, it is. Yes. What do you want to know? I mean, I just think.
Are you surprised that that the EFL have been gone? Because lots of people are saying, "Oh, they'll get a fine like Leeds did, or they might get some points stuck next season." But to be thrown out, saying you're not going to the playoff final and you're going to get 4 points deducted, that's like the EFL going to the extreme. Are you surprised that the EFL have gone so far?
No, but I also think the 4 points is arbitrary. I don't understand the 4 points. I mean, that is absolutely pointless next year. I mean, really doesn't make any difference. I just think the penalty is they were deemed to gain an advantage to get to the playoffs, losing a place in the playoffs. I mean, of course, it's classic EFL. It's classic, many football organisation though. To the Bielsa situation for Leeds, they realised there wasn't a law in place, or there wasn't a set of clear rules in place. They then changed the rule book, and then they feel like it's now clear for everybody. So that's the first thing that Southampton need to know. It was always then, therefore, illegal to do it, or not allowed by the rules. Well, classically though, they didn't put in place was an agreement on the sanctions, and what would that mean? And so that's the bit where they've messed up, is not having that sort of thing in place in advance. Is it too much? No, I don't think so. I mean, if especially if you confess to 3 more or whatever, I mean, that's but maybe they knew that the evidence was coming out and they just got ahead of the game and all of that. I think it's absolutely fine. And to be honest, most Southampton fans have come to terms with it. They are absolutely bitter and angry with the club and not the EFL. They're not that. I mean, I'm sure there's the odd 1 or 2 things like EFL management and jumped up bosses, but most of what I've heard on talk radio type things are disappointment in the way that the club has run, because it's now known to be not allowed. Because what is a club supposed to do if it can't have private training sessions? There is a rule now that you can't, 48 hours before the game, you cannot be, watched, because otherwise what advantage you got? Otherwise, unless you have a ground that has brilliant indoor facilities, or, the security on site I just feel like the little clubs will just inevitably always be at disadvantage. So I think that rule is important. Now, what I was surprised was, for once, they got it done quickly. And I know the game coming up soon was always going to be an added sort of booster to getting the decision made. And it still leaves enough time potentially for an appeal, should Southampton want to go through the appeal. I feel for Hull a little bit. I feel a little bit for Middlesbrough by being sort of the victims of all of this, because although they're now in the final, and I'm sure they don't care in that way, it has been very turbulent, and it has made preparations for their biggest game of certainly Middlesbrough's quite recent history, and Hull, to be honest, because they both have been Premiership clubs and they want to get back in the Premier League. So I do feel for them, but I just think the rule was always made clear. You're not supposed to do it. You have to have some sort of sanction for it. And so, I mean, I'm still surprised that the clubs like yourselves, Wrexham, and any of the other clubs that were 7th, 8th, or 9th, who could have arguably have been in that. I'm not saying you would have got to the final. I'm not saying that the combination of results, but had, could any of that have been played out differently? Would you have made the playoffs?
Doesn't it? That's the problem. It leaves it open. I mean, Jamie, Josh Windass has come out on social media saying the Southampton story is one of the maddest I've seen, but why isn't the playoffs being started again with the other 4 teams? Borough versus Hull would have been a semi-final confused. There are reports in the media apparently that Hull City are talking about legal action because they're saying, well, we should just go through because we're the only side who has actually made it to the Wembley properly. Millwall and Wrexham are looking at their legal options with regards to what's going on. I mean, This is I mean, can you obviously, as we said, Southampton are appealing as we speak, as we're recording this on Wednesday, so we'll know by Friday what's going on. I mean, can you see Southampton this being reversed in any way?
No, because I mean that's just going to add another level of craziness to it all, isn't it? You can't. No, I'd be amazed if their appeal is successful, but I think, like you've just said, the issue here now is that there are so many strands coming off this which could linger on. You'd argue that Hull have got a case. They're legitimately the only ones that have qualified for the final properly. Is it right that Middlesbrough just get the place of Southampton? Like you just said there, Millwall might consider their situation. Wrexham will consider theirs. You could even go to Derby and say, well, if they've, if Southampton have admitted cheating, or because that's what we're talking about, if they've admitted, if they've admitted it for 3 occasions, what's to say they haven't done it in the other occasions for other games?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that the Oxford in December they lost, Ipswich in April they drew, Middlesbrough in May they drew. Between December and April, they went on a 16-game unbeaten streak. Funny how none of that's come out. Is it really?
It's a very. I mean, you said at the start a mess, and I think that's a really good way of putting it. Because I'm not sure whether even if the appeal comes out and says no, we're upholding our original decision, they're kicked out, and it's going to mean Middlesbrough against Hull. I don't think that'll be the end of it. Because the problem is here, you're talking about the Championship playoff final, which has always been labelled, hasn't it, as the most lucrative game in football, 150, 200 million quid. So that's a serious amount of money that you're talking about. And that's, you can totally understand why clubs like Wrexham, who missed out in the end, only just missed out in the end. Yeah, I don't know. It's a mess, and it's going to linger on, I think.
I mean, it's interesting that, we'd said all season that Wrexham, really held their own, in the Championship. We never really got spanked apart from once. And that was in the Southampton game where they beat us 5-1. I mean, do you think that they might have gone to Collier's Park with a pair of binoculars and had a look at what we're doing? I mean, I am putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 5.
No, but yeah, of course you are. But the thing is, the fact that they've admitted to doing it on multiple occasions, it leads that question. It leads that very open-ended. Well, how many other times have they done it that they're not admitting to? Is it just those 3 times? That's the problem that you've got. And if excuse me, if they'd have had somebody at Collier's with a pair of binoculars, would that have had an impact on the result? Well, the problem is that it might have, as much as it might not have. The fact that they've committed this offence is created this huge problem.
I think that for me, I think the chances are no, it wouldn't have changed the result, because I'm not convinced that, because this is what's so disappointing for the club and the fans, but also the players who actually they played well and they deserve. I mean, for a lot of those games, they deserve their wins. There's no denying that streak. You can't just claim that they got a winning streak just because they got some insights and some information. they still have to play. They still have to score those goals. You know, it was an impressive run. And what's undermined it now is that we don't know which of those performances were genuinely top class performances by
and that's the
decent...
problem, Daz. There is doubt in there. You know, I was listening to an interview this week with one of the Southampton players that was done a while back, where he's talking to somebody from BBC, and the player says, you know, the manager's great. He always seems to know what the opposition are going to do, and he gives us as players what we need to really get the job done, and we know when they're going to press. And that's the thing, you see. They might be completely innocent comments, but with the background of what we now know that they've admitted to, everything now has a level of doubt in there. Yeah. And I mean,
it's a thread. It's a thread you don't want to pull, though. I just don't think there's any point going back that far. You know,
I mean, Tonder Eckhart has to go, doesn't he? Their manager has to go.
I don't. Did Bielsa? Did he get sacked?
No.
I think that's the thing. The penalty is you've lost your place in the playoff. Now it's up to the club whether or not they want to keep him or whether or not they were complicit. But I'm not sure it's an automatic sacking or asking him to resign.
He's come out and he's taken the blame. He said that he instigated it. Bielsa and Leeds got promoted, so they weren't in the same division the year after.
Yeah,
when they did it.
But if you know you get betting cheats and they're allowed to come back, you get drug doping and stuff, they're allowed to come back. The penalty's been paid. I'm not as clean cut as he has to go and never work in this country again.
It's whether their fans had, you know, what, because like you said, Daz, I've read and I've listened to quite a lot of Southampton fans who are furious, and I think that's who I feel for, is the fans and the players, because I don't think, you know, this is not something that they've had any part in. I don't know. The only two good things to come out of it is, one, is that if they do end up staying in the Championship with a -4, it means that we won't be bottom of the league at the start of the season.
That's great.
And the second thing is that's their new kit for next season, which is just beautiful. That tickled me when I saw that. Cheetos.
Don't be afraid to cry now, even when the world comes crashing in. Don't forget to sing when you win.
Well, Friday saw the first 2 episodes of Season 5 of Welcome to Wrexham, the documentary, drop on viewing platforms, and we were treated to an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. Spoilers ahead. If you are listening and you haven't seen it yet, pull forward, because you don't want to listen to what we're going to talk about.
Daz hasn't seen it by the look of it.
Have you got? Oh, Daz. Okay, fine. Oh.
It's okay. You can talk about it, because really, I'm not worried about the spoilers, because I think I know how the season goes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, quite true.
So it's okay. It's okay.
Episode 1, entitled "The Heart of Wrexham," opens showing Wrexham beginning the new season in the Championship, but in a tough new league with mostly new squad. Wrexham fans and co-chairman Rob Mack and Ryan Reynolds try to keep focus on what makes Wrexham Wrexham. Episode 2, entitled "Joey Jones," as the team struggle to stay out of the relegation zone, the town honours the legacy of Joey Jones, one of Wrexham's football legends. Jamie, you've seen it. I've seen it. I defy you not to cry, because the first episode that followed the Bailey Jones and his family, the 20-year-old who sadly passed away following an accident, and the organ donation as part of the process, and then obviously the second one, again, all about Wrexham struggling early on in the beginning of the season. Which, it's funny, I don't know about you, but when I was watching it, I didn't realise how much jeopardy we were in at the time, because I don't know whether I was just enjoying being in the Championship, but you know, we were losing or drawing, and everybody was getting quite upset. And obviously then the passing of Joey Jones and that incredibly emotional day at the Kairos where we said goodbye. What are your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of this series?
The best opening to a series so far. The first episode in particular, I mean both of them, but the first episode just absolutely superb. Superbly done. You can see why this program has won several awards and Emmys and things. I think when we first found out they were doing a documentary years ago, I think like most other locals, I think we were all probably a little bit fearful. Is this just going to be a piss take of the town? And I think as time's gone on and the series have gone on, we've realised that they are phenomenally good storytellers, and the way they've done this show is incredible. And that first episode of season 5 was just fantastic. I mean, at the start of it, that, you know, they did a very, very good job of kind of highlighting, again, bearing in mind that the purpose of the documentary is not necessarily for the Wrexham fan. It's kind of a worldwide global audience. And it did a really good job of explaining how much of a jump it was for us to get to the Championship, and how big, talking about like the levels of players and the finances and things. Did a really good job in a very short space of time of explaining, that leap that we'd taken. Very briefly covered the pre-season tour, and obviously Ollie Rathbone's injury and things like that. And then, like you say, it really kind of was a stark reminder about how poor of a start of the season we had, which kind of brings into context when you remember, what we've been talking about in recent weeks about the disappointment of just missing out on the playoffs. It kind of puts into perspective how good of a season it actually was. You got to remember that the turnover on the playing side of things at the, last summer, it was monumental. So it was always going to take time to bed and gel together.
Well, I think there was genuine shock from Ryan Reynolds after he goes into the dressing room and he comes out and he goes, "I don't know many of those faces," and he looked, didn't he, genuinely shocked.
Yeah,
that he's kind of like all the familiar faces he was expecting to see. He kind of thinking, "I'm going to have to get a new cheat sheet to work out who everybody's name is."
Yeah, you're right, and I think that was kind of a great visual way of kind of showing how much change there had been. One thing I would say about Rob and Ryan, though, and I think this is a real sort of, not that they're going to give a monkey's chuff about a compliment from me, but I tell you what I would say from both the two episodes is their footballing knowledge is so good. For two people that didn't understand the game 5 years ago, their understanding, the way that they've learned and invested into the game is incredible. And again, going that whole narrative of all the shit that they get for Hollywood money and all this shit. But how many times have we said that the way they run the football club is fantastic for the game, for the sport, and I think credit to them, the way that they've invested in learning the sport, and that really comes across. Their knowledge is incredible. But I think, like you say,
we saw for the first time as well, for me, because obviously, after that West Bromwich Albion game, Ryan goes into the manager room and said, what do you need?
Yeah.
And Phil Parkinson tries to start explaining, and then he goes, I don't want this on camera.
Yeah.
And twice, and gets rid of the crew and says, out.
Yeah.
And you actually see that he does have veto, because you're always worried about how much pressure is he put in by the camera crew to say, well, the documentary is a large part of Wrexham. We have to document everything. But if he says out, then they're gone.
I think it was a great little, kind of insight into how much management of the football club he does and he's got, and how highly regarded he is. I'm sure. I don't know how often he'll be doing that, but it was interesting. You're right to call that out. It was interesting to see him doing that twice. Don't want it on camera, and there was no arguments. It was just do it, get out kind of thing. The footballing side of that first episode was brilliant, but you're right. The overwhelming story of the episode was Bailey, wasn't it? I mean, like you say. How you can watch that and not shed a tear is beyond me. I think when Bailey passed away, there was the applause of the crowd, and there was local, tragic passing of this young fan. But I didn't know him, and I didn't know how he died. And when you hear the story of how he died, it's so tragic. Such a tragic accident. And fair play to his mum and dad for being a part of the episode and telling his story so amazingly. But the story of obviously is organ donation and obviously his heart ending up saving somebody's life. And then the story of that person bringing his heart back to the racecourse was just, like you say, I was just in bits, man. And I think the bit that really got me was during that Derby game when Matthew, I think the guy, the recipient of Bailey's heart, I think it was, he said to Bailey's dad, feel the heart go in his chest. And I was just like, that's, you know, as a human being, you can watch something like that and it's moving.
Well,
but as a parent, you know,
we're all dads.
Yeah.
We're all dads. Do you know what I mean? And can you imagine that if your child, you know, your child sadly passed, and you know their organ had gone to somebody else, and then that saved that some person's life, and then that person says to you, you'd be incredibly proud, but it'd be crushing, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm warning you, Daz. Okay, I'm just warning you. Be ready. Because it's brilliant. It's an incredibly warming story, but it is absolutely crushing as a parent.
The way they did it was superb. It was so well done, as we've seen them do with sensitive subjects. It was so well done. And then obviously, like you say, into the second episode, which was titled Joey Jones, so we knew obviously what was coming. I know a few people had said they were surprised there wasn't a little bit more of the Joey Jones in there. To me, I thought it was perfect, because there was a little piece in there with Geraint, and he said Joey didn't like the spotlight. He didn't like being in front of the camera.
He didn't.
And he wouldn't have wanted a whole episode about him.
I've said it before. I don't know whether you remember. You know, when our Uncle Ken was alive, he used to go around Erddig walking the dog, and he'd meet up with Joey walking his dog. And they just talk football, but not like anything specific. They just talk about football in general. And, you know, that was the thing. It was like, oh, yeah, Joey was walking his dog. You know, this is the guy who's the first Welsh player to win a European Cup. You know, won 2 titles with Liverpool, played for Wrexham. He's just walking his dog around Erddig like he's, whatever. I mean, that was the thing about Joey. He had no airs and graces. He just enjoyed it.
Everyone that came into contact with him says the same thing. He was just down to earth. He was, salt of the earth. And I think, like I say, I think the coverage that they did in that episode was perfect. Obviously, Mickey at the helm of it. Good God, what a relationship they had! What a relationship they had, And to hear Mickey talk about him, the pride that bursts out of Mickey every time he mentions Joey Jones is just unbelievable. And to see obviously the little bit of the story about how the mural was done, obviously Joey's send off at the Kairos, I thought it was perfect. But obviously the one other thing to come out of that episode was that has to be mentioned was Trina the cleaner,
breakout star that is.
Oh
Trina
my
the cleaner.
God! Honestly. And this is a bit of a spoiler, Daz, but she said, if I fell in a well of cocks, I'd come up sucking my thumb. And I'm not kidding you. I was absolutely doubled over when she said that. I was doubled over. But for someone, obviously for you and I, Si, who grew up in Wrexham, look up Wrexham resident in the diary and the thesaurus, and you will see a picture of her, because she epitomised a Wrexham resident.
Our cousin Jane. When I was watching her, I just saw our cousin Jane, because she's exactly the same. I mean,
no filters.
Probably more cruder. Jane's more cruder, I would imagine.
Yeah. No filter. Says it how it is.
Yeah.
Absolute character, and I hope we see more of her throughout the rest of this season.
I'm sure we will. But I mean, a cracking start.
Brilliant.
Something to really look forward to. The next episode on Friday is entitled "Coming Together." The pressure on Wrexham AFC mounts as the pricey new players struggle to gel, while the Wrexham women's team adjusts to a new leader. And then we've got episode 4, Wales Forever, as Wrexham and Swansea City prepare for a Welsh showdown. Nathan Broadhead, Lily Jones, and the players of Wrexham AFC power chair team exemplify the Welsh spirit. Episode 5, Holiday Spirit. After a crushing loss, leave Wrexham spiralling at Christmas time. A big FA Cup match against a Premier League opponent gives goalie Arthur Okonkwo a shot at redemption. Episode 6, Hell Week. Wrexham AFC plays 3 high-stakes matches in 7 days, including hosting legendary Premier League club Chelsea. Co-chairman Rob Mack and Ryan Reynolds prepare to broadcast the match. Episode 7, Touching Grass. Careful there. With Wrexham fighting for a position in the playoffs and perhaps promotion to the Premier League, Phil Parkinson tries to keep his squad and himself grounded. An episode 8 title is yet to be announced. Daz, you haven't seen it, so can't ask your opinion yet. But on what you've heard from myself and Jamie, are you and family looking forward to it, is the question.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why we haven't watched it, because we haven't all been in long enough to make the most of it. So, we'll catch up, no doubt. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be fully prepared. I mean, I'm a bit of a heartless bastard when it comes to these moments, anyway. So I'll warn the girls though, because they will find it. And it's not because I don't care for the people. It's just a weird thing I don't do. But no. I'm intrigued to know though whether or not does it cover a bit of because I remember at the beginning of the season that there was a lot of Parky out and the fact that it's all going wrong and all of that. I mean, does it really cover any of that sort of early sort of turmoil on the terraces as much as I know the turnaround in players?
There's a subtle nod, isn't it? I know there's like Wayne saying something along the lines of I think just sort of calling out that I think Parky deserves all the time in the world, but if we lost 6, 7, 8 games in a row, questions would be asked. I think kind of referencing obviously that he'd been given a good chunk of money to spend, and that it's not going to be it.
It's not as visceral as previous series. There's not a large groundswell of voices at the beginning. If anything, actually, Wrexham fans are much more grounded. I think they're just so pleased to be in the Championship, and they're giving Parky enough leeway to be able to say, well, you know, whatever.
Oh, I absolutely agree that
they're kinder. They're a lot kinder, certainly.
I think once you've got that kind of track record, and you've got the proven history, and you kind of earned it, and so that was always the thing that sort of made me feel a bit uncomfortable hearing some of that at the time, just because some people think he's hit his ceiling and all of that. So it's great to know that that's there's a nod to it, but it doesn't completely dominate, because but no, I think it's the turnover in players that's a fascinating angle, and to hear about the man, the ownership, who I'm assuming is sanctioning all the decisions, as surprised to see new faces, which is.
There are some very interesting conversations between Rob and Ryan during the first home game against West Brom, where they're basically saying, oh, okay, this is not good. You could see actually the little bit of worry in them, saying, right, we are way off the pace. What do we need to do here? And they identify that in the second game, in the first home game, the second game of the season. After playing Southampton and we came so close to beating them, I think they thought, oh, we'll be at home now, Fortress Kairas, and we got shown up on that day, and they can see that. They can see that, and it's quite interesting that for the first time, for me, they're kind of going, oh, okay, we need to do something. That's what it is. It's more of, obviously, let Parky run the football club, and that's fine, and we're here if we're needed, passive. This is much more active. We need to do something.
Well, Ryan said, didn't he? After that West Brom game, he said to Rob, we need to spend some money. Yeah. So, they knew that, they knew. I think that was something that was quite interesting, though, as well, as going back to what I said at the very beginning about when they did a great job of introing the step to the Championship. Again, it was a good job done as well, mainly by Sean Harvey, kind of explaining that although we did throw a lot of money at it last summer, it was only really to try and bridge a gap. And this is the thing that we've said all along, which a lot of outsiders don't see, which is, we spent 30 million quid last summer, but really that was only just kind of giving us a slight bridging a gap between our squad quality and depth versus the top team. So yeah, it was that was another good little thing as well. And the goalkeepers as well was something that was quite interesting. Obviously, the Danny Ward injury at Millwall was fair play. That's quite haunting.
What you get, Daz, is he looks like he's personally mic'd, or he's got something. He is in absolute agony. Yeah. He's screaming in pain. Yeah. Obviously, we know he completely fucking blown his elbow, but it's you don't see it on the TV because you can't hear it. But boy, was he in agony.
But the one other thing that come out of that, which I've forgotten all about until I watched it on the episode, was when Arthur comes in for that end of that Millwall game, he makes an unbelievable save pretty much straight away. An unbelievable save that when we were still only 1-0. And that reminded me, and I'm thinking to myself, going back to the conversations we were having, and we're probably going to have in the next couple of weeks about next season and goalkeepers and stuff. That was a great reminder of what Arthur can do.
Following football in the UK is an expensive business, as every fan countrywide will tell you, and it's getting more expensive every year. Just to make following Wrexham a little more distressing, particularly for me this season, I decided to keep a record of exactly how much I spent following Wrexham Men and Women.
Don't do it, son. Don't do it.
Trust me, it's horrendous. This includes the cost of tickets, travel, and matchday food and drink, and the final results even surprised me. Before I start going through it, gents, are you expecting something that's fairly horrendous, or kind of, well, you have to spend some money and you have to accept it? What's your general feeling before I'm
guessing your food column's going to be quite large.
Yeah, even higher than any kind of British Rail train fare. Do you know what I mean?
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho.
No, I from the few games I go to, I know it costs a lot. It's an expensive day out, So I am expecting the number, and you have been, to your credit, an incredibly loyal fan and doing the away trips. And obviously, you're only eating that much for the podcast anyway, for the Scramble Report. You wouldn't be doing it any other reason. No, of course not. So
body's a temple in it. Body's a temple in it, bruv.
I wouldn't have a pie and a sausage roll and a rollover. I'm just doing that so I can spread the food groups. Obviously, definitely. Right. So, how much to follow Wrexham in 25-26? So this is following Wrexham Men and Wrexham Women. So that's both home and away where I could get to them. Total games, 36 home games attended, 27 away games attended, a total of 63 games. Some interesting facts here. The average men's away price, so I did 15 away games for the men. The average away ticket price was £33.83 for an away ticket. The most expensive single ticket, Jamie, would you like to make a guess at who ripped me off the most?
That's a good trick question. I was going to say Coventry, but you didn't go, did you?
Yeah, no. I bought Coventry City. I just
okay then. So Coventry then.
It is indeed Coventry City. £45.
Robin bastards.
To follow. £45. So now in the total of a ticket, travel, and food and drink, what was the most expensive away day? Do you think? And this surprised me. I think it was because of the trains, because that pushed it over the edge, over the top.
Did you go to Leicester? No.
Yes, I went to Leicester. It wasn't Leicester.
It wasn't Leicester.
No.
I don't know.
So the most expensive away day was Sheffield Wednesday, £145, which was ticket price, train, and food and drink. It was the train that was the most expensive bit, because I think the ticket was about £28-29, which is pretty good, which is fairly on pat. But I think the train was £90. Something ridiculous like that. It was really, really expensive. So from that point of view. So, I mean, Jamie, looking at those kind of figures, £33.83 average for a men's away ticket, 45 obviously for Coventry. Any of that surprise you at all?
Not. I wouldn't say surprises me, because it's something that we kind of discussed at various points throughout last season. The Wrexham tax, which inevitably seems to now get levied, which is not fair, just because the club, has done a phenomenal job of generating revenue, and in the last few years, you shouldn't automatically assume then that the fans are in the same boat. I don't know. I mean, one thing's for sure is like that I can see now by these figures why I get such shit birthday presents.
I mean, you said yourself you've been to a couple of away games in the Premier League. How does this compare to the ticket prices that you've paid for to go and see Liverpool?
Aren't
Yeah,
away tickets capped in the Premier League?
No.
And they capped it? Oh, they're not.
Well, I
thought
don't
they
think so.
capped.
I don't think I
Oh.
don't. Well, I've not noticed that if they are. No,
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, I haven't been away this season, so I don't know what compared to this year. Obviously, year on year, but I mean, they've always been easily in the 45 starting price, band before, for quite a few of the games I've been to. But then, of course, if you want to try and get to a game as well, then you sometimes pay over the odds because, certainly Liverpool games, once people have got their season tickets and things like that, you are getting them through a third party sort of provider. I was going to ask the question though, because obviously you're not local to Wrexham. I mean, how much would this have changed had you been living in the Wrexham area? Because of course you could get to your Blackburns, your Sheffields, Leeds much easier from there than say where you live now.
That's true, but obviously if you take the supporters coaches are anything from kind of £35 to £45 anyway, and train travel even from Wrexham to locals.
Oh,
you're still.
I was in Wrexham. It cost me 50 quid to get back from Wrexham last week.
Yeah.
You know what I
So-
mean? It's
so-
51. A single trip was 50 quid. Which
From where
know
I
on
am,
the day-
average train prices is about £85 return to most of these
Yeah.
games. The London ones are the cheapest because it's a direct route down to Newport and then along the M4 corridor. If I'm going up to, I think that's why Sheffield was so expensive because I had to change trains 3 times, which is why it was so much. But yes, it probably would have been cheaper if I'd have lived in the Wrexham area, but then it would have been offset by if you're going to the away London games, you're probably paying more to get to them compared to what I've had to pay to get to London. So I think it's a much of a muchness. Anyway,
there is just I just googled it. There is an away ticket cap in the Premier League, 30 quid.
Okay.
There you go. So how much did it actually cost me then for this season to go and watch 63 games? So the tickets, that includes the price of the men's home season ticket and the women's home season ticket, which was £25. Total price I spent on tickets for the 25-26 season was £1,181.50. Travel, was either by car, so that's because I drive an electric car, so that's electric charging out on the road, or by bus, or by train. The total cost for the season going to see Wrexham Men and Women was £1,318.09. And then food and drink,
10 grand.
The mortgage
for the match day, food and drink for match days on
If
those
this is more than £1,000, I'm going.
63 games, it was £732, which means a total for all those three to follow Wrexham Men and Women of £3,231.59.
Your family doesn't watch this podcast, do they?
I don't hope not, because if she did,
Just make that bit fuzzy. Just make that bit fuzzy at the
she'd be
bottom.
horrified. I was shocked. I have to be honest. I was shocked because I knew that I was spending money. And yes, you're right. I've probably gone to more games than most would because I have the homes. I go to all the home games. I went to a lot of away women's games because they were closer to me. And obviously I went to the 15 men's games, which were away as well. But I was shocked that it was £3,231. Jamie, does that shock you?
It does when you look at it like that, because I mean it's we all know it's an expensive do going to a football game. Whether you remember as well that this is your calculation based on just you.
Yep.
If you've got families or two of you going or whatever, then
don't forget that's only 9 months because obviously the season is only August to April, beginning of May.
I'm not surprised. I think it's unsettling. It's unsettling to see the
figure. When you see it like that. Yeah.
But nothing you've shared with me today has surprised me, other than that the food wasn't a bit higher. But I just think this is what you pay these days, and I think I've bought into that. Now, whether or not it's right or wrong, that's a different question again. And I do think the likes of the train costs. There's some scandalous about pricing there when you think of the trip around France doing, Euros in 2016, the number of trips I was, and we're talking, hundreds of miles of travel, and I was getting them way cheaper. The subsidized public transport systems of other countries does put ours to shame. Now, if we were to have a better and integrated system like that, then you could have got some of your costs down, because the bus does still seem quite a lot, although it's quite nice to have the company and to be able to go with, people that you consistently meet up with. I do like the idea of that. But tickets, I suppose. No, I suppose for the Cymru games we do pay 30 odd.
This is the thing. This is obviously only following Wrexham. I've not included any of the Cymru men's or women's games that I also paid a season ticket for, and the food that I spent at the CCS, because I didn't go to any away games last season, and the travel that I did down to the CCS and to other areas. To the time I went up to Wrexham to see the Wrexham women as well, so the Cymru women as well. So I've not included that. That's probably another 1,200-1,300 quid, I reckon, for the season ticket and everything else. So you can add it. Yeah. You can get close to $5,000 to follow your national and your domestic side for a season.
And absolutely. And I think, I mean, to be honest, credit to you. I mean, obviously, you're a very, diligent and supportive fan, and there are fans, I'm not trying to shame you here, but by saying there are some fans who go to every game home and away and don't necessarily live by the stadium, but they are home and away, and that always impresses me, and I'm in awe of those fans who commit they have no weekends, their weekend travel, and their hobby, the thing that they do every weekend is go and see their football team. I'm in awe of that, just because of what the commitment involves and the hours you spend on the early travel and the get there in time for, especially early kickoffs or midweek games, and it's not straightforward. So it always impresses me. But no, fair play, mate. I mean, this is a lot of money, for something you love, I guess, something you love. Well, normally
the most expensive ticket was England versus Cymru at Wembley. That was, and I'm not included that in this.
Look, at least you're now spending this money on something constructive, like watching Wrexham Men and Women in Wales, not on hookers like you used to.
Yeah, I know. Hookers and blow. Yeah, I know. Well, you get to an age, mate, where you just can't do that anymore, because you'll get arrested. And I'm so beautiful in prison, I would just be, prime meat, to say the least. Anyway, I won't be doing this again, because this is horrifying. When I looked at the final figure, I was like, oh, my life. Really? Have I really pissed £3,231 at the wall?
For me though,
it's like memories.
For me though, it's like that gym membership. When you see it going out every month at like £27 or whatever, you just think, oh yeah, that's not too bad. And then you look at the amount that you've actually been, and then how much you've actually spent at the end of the year. It's definitely not worth it. So just keep spending it, trickle it away each week.
So just so you're aware, a gym is a thing where they have exercise equipment, weights and running machines and stuff. Probably never heard of one.
Sounds like a torture chamber to me. I'm not getting involved in that.
It's the stuff that's out on the yard when you get into that prison.
Now on the Eat More Chips podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper. We catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. First up, 3 Wrexham squad players have been called up to international squads, with 2 of them going to the FIFA World Cup this summer. Liberato Cacace has been called up to the New Zealand squad. Cacace, 25, has won 32 caps for the All Whites. New Zealand prepare for the tournament with 2 friendlies in Florida, where they face Haiti at Fort Lauderdale's Inter Miami CF Stadium on 2nd of June, and England in Tampa Bay 5 days later. And the match against England will be at the Raymond James Stadium, the same venue at which Wrexham take on Leeds United in July. The All Whites are in Group G for the FIFA World Cup, where they face Iran, Egypt and Belgium. Dom Hyam has been called up to the Scotland squad. He returned to the Scotland squad in the March international break. He's won 2 caps, making his first international start in March's match against Ivory Coast. Prior to the tournament, Scotland will play 2 warm-up friendlies against Curaçao at Hampden Park in Glasgow before travelling to New Jersey to face Bolivia. Scotland are in Group C. They face Haiti, Morocco and Brazil. Hayam joins Welshtechie in being called up to the FIFA World Cup. They follow in the footsteps of Dennis Lawrence, who was called up to Trinidad and Tobago, the only previous Wrexham player to play at the World Cup, where he played in 2006. Arthur Okonkwo has been called up to Nigeria squad for the first time ahead of this summer's Unity Cup. Okonkwo previously played youth international football for England, but qualifies for Nigeria through his parents and was confirmed as eligible for the Super Eagles by FIFA in April. They face Zimbabwe in the opening game, and Bailey Calamatri's Jamaica meet India in the other semi-final, while the final and third place playoff both taking place on Saturday, May the 30th. The Super Eagles then head to Warsaw to face Poland in an international friendly and complete their international camp with another friendly away to Portugal. Daz, what could have been? Because if Wales had got in, there would be lots more names on that list from a Wrexham point of view. But impressive, though, that Wrexham do have 3 players who will be going off, and 2 of them obviously going off to play for the World Cup. I mean, it's difficult because we're not there, but are you excited for the World Cup? Because the BBC have now released, they've started the hype and all the ridiculously stupid times that the games are going to be on, because they're all going to be on late at night or early in the morning. Are you excited for the World Cup?
Which World Cup?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. You see, I knew there would be some sense from you, which is perfect.
I love the tournament. I love the competition. I love this sport. I am finding it really difficult to get motivated and impassioned about it, because I will. When we get closer, I will. When Scotland kick off, I'll be rooting on the Scots. I'll be singing no Scotland, no party. Even though I don't believe that's entirely true. I think Cymru would add, more. But still, I am going to be rooting for the Scots and clearly now New Zealand and as well as Scotland. In terms of Wrexham interest, but yeah, I am genuinely. I've got it in my diary still. I've got it booked. I had where all the Cymru games would have been. I would have, I've got my work commitments. We're trying to be slotted around it, and now I just kind of go. It's an absolute emotion, roller coaster for me at the moment. Just waiting for this tournament to sort of happen and go, but. When I'm in it, I'll be fine. Absolutely. Don't worry, guys. I'll be fine. Yeah.
Live news as we speak. A league arbitration panel has today dismissed Southampton's football club's appeal against the Independent Disciplinary Commission's decision in respect to the breaches of EFL regulations. As a result, the original sanction remains in force. Southampton's expulsion from the Sky Bet Championship playoffs stands alongside the 4-point deduction to be applied to the club's 26-27 championship record and the reprimand in respect of all charges in accordance with the EFL regulations. The decision of the league arbitration panel is final.
See you next year, you cheating fox.
Following the conclusion of the proceedings, the Sky Bet Championship playoff final between Hull and Middlesbrough is confirmed as taking place at Wembley this Saturday 23rd, kicking off at 3:30 p.m. No surprises there, boys?
No. It was never going to get overturned, and
they are going to get such grief. Where the fan, and again, I don't blame the fans. I feel sorry for them, but they're going to get such grief everywhere they go next season, aren't they? They're going to get such grief.
Well,
it's nice not to be the most hated side in the championship.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, my daughter's boyfriend is a Hull fan. He's going to Wembley. He now knows who he's
exactly.
going to. So there's actually some closure to that, so they can all start now.
Until Middlesbrough beat them, and then they put in a legal claim saying that they should have gone through automatic. Anyway, this will never end from that point of view. Wrexham AFC have confirmed their 2026 retained release list for the men's first team. Released following players who are out of contract will not be offered new deals. They have been released by the club's sincere thanks for their efforts and contributions during their time at the football club. They are Andy Cannon, Jay Rodriguez, Callum Edwards, Ruben Egan, Tom Kelly and Max Purvis. Issa Gabore's loan spell has ended and he's returned back to Man City. Contract extensions have been given to Aaron James, Alex Moore and Rio Owen. Young players to get their first professional contract: Sammy Chesworth, Tommy Clayton, George Cruz, David Edwards, who was the graduate of the year, Oliver McTweed and Joe Reese. Nicholas Starcevic has continued to be a third-year scholar. And the young players to be released: Damon Almeida, Casey Bedford, and Umar Nawaz. concentrating really on the kind of the senior players: Andy Cannon, Jay Rodriguez, Callum Edwards, Ruben Egan, Tom Kelly, Max Purvis, and Issa Kabore. Jamie, any surprises there for you that none of them were offered a new contract?
No, I mean the with the greatest respect to everybody on that was released, the three that jump out is Rodriguez, Cannon, and Issa Kabore, isn't it? Excuse me. Although let's caveat Kabore's as that's just an acknowledgement that it's the end of his loan and he's going back to his parent club. That doesn't mean to say that there won't be any further, chances of him.
Well, there was no right to buy, was there, in the loan?
No,
there wasn't a
no.
thing. So he goes back, and if we want him now, then we
exactly.
Would have to,
it was just kind of an acknowledgement of it, wasn't it? I mean, the Jay Rodriguez one isn't a surprise to any of us. I don't think is a look. I think you have to put him in the miss column. I think when you look at Kenny Parkey's signings over the years, you have to put him in the miss column. Although I suppose you do have to acknowledge his contribution, when him and Sam Smith signed in the January of the season, before last, when we were in League One. Fundamentally, their signings were the bit that tipped us over the edge to getting promotion. Obviously, Sam Smith predominantly supplied the goals, but a lot of people do kind of rate Rodriguez's his contribution during those games. I personally didn't really see it. I didn't think, for somebody that's a former international striker, I expected a bit more from him. So there was no surprise there. The one that stung obviously was Andy Cannon, wasn't it? I think, unfortunately, he's just the latest in a line of sort of legacy players who've been on this journey with us, and sadly, sadly, the destination that we're trying to get to now has kind of passed them by. I mean, what a brilliant player he was for us, though. And let's not forget he did back-to-back promotions with us, but let's not forget he did 4 promotions on the bounce, because in the season before he came to us, he got promotion with Stockport as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So there can't be too many players that have achieved 4 promotions on the bounce. But obviously the 3 that he got with us and the contribution he made to us, he was a brilliant little player, wasn't he? I mean, when he was on it, he was so good at breaking the lines between midfield and the strikers. Really, really good player, but totally understandable that it's come to an end, because I think he fits into the same bracket as your Palmers and your Mullins and your Lees, where their contribution will never ever be forgotten. But unfortunately, there's no room for sentiment with where we're at. But yeah, to all of them that were on that release list, you just wish them all the very best for the future, and I'm sure they'll hopefully go on to new pastures.
Yes, it's that time of year again where we inject some sense finally into the podcast. And who better to do that than someone who's an ex-player, manager, coach, author and pundit? And when you ask his wife how he manages to load the dishwasher to perfection, 1 word, 2 syllables, technique. Of course, welcome back. It's Andy Morrell. Hello, Andy. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
You're welcome. It was so close. It was so close on a week on last Saturday. As we were moving to the last few games, Andy, a lot of the fans kind of changed from this kind of pessimistic, I think we've messed it up too, we could actually do this. Did you truly think that we might be able to make the playoffs?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, obviously, I think it was after the Birmingham game, it was going to be a lot more difficult. We didn't really show up in that game, and with 4 games to go, it was going to be a bit tricky. But to bounce back and have 2 wins at Stoke and Oxford, it really put us in a really good position. And I thought that we were in good enough form to get something out of the last 2 difficult games. And just unfortunate, it just wasn't quite to be. Do you know what I mean? We fought so hard. I thought they'd done brilliantly to keep it alive till the end of the season. It could have been. There's so many games on that last day that aren't playing for anything. and to keep it alive till then was brilliant. And I didn't expect it at the start of the season. I think the lads and the staff have been remarkable this season to do what they've done. And just to miss out, I think there's a real reflection of so close, yes, but maybe that's about where we are at this moment in time. And so we can just look to rebuild and go again next season.
I mean, when you look at the standard from last night, Southampton versus Middlesbrough, what a amazing match that was. And you can kind of see, you're kind of thinking, yeah, that's the kind of level we really need to be at if we need to compete within the championship playoffs, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think for myself, definitely, we had that really tricky start to the season, and then we sort of really picked up over Christmas that took us from 15th to 9th and put us right around it. And then through to the end of the season, I thought we were in it, always in it. And then I thought that Southampton game, it really opened my eyes really to where you've got to be if you're gonna be an elite team in this division. I thought they were excellent. I thought they had pace all through the team. I thought they were very comfortable on the ball. They had a style, and they looked like they're in the final and really going to push Hull to get out of the league. And so I think that's levels. I thought we had it League One with Birmingham. I thought they were just that little bit better than us at League One, and I think Southampton proved that. And so I think it's not a bad thing that we can regroup, and it's not a rebuild. It's just add to where we are at the moment and go again next season. And all of our players, certainly the ones that have never played Championship level, will all be better for that year.
Well, let's go back to the start of the year, because when we spoke just before Christmas, we talked about how important the Christmas New Year period was going to be. But how much of a surprise was it for you to lose away at Swansea in the way that we did, and then go on a 5-game winning run, which included that incredible FA Cup win at the Stoke Ross versus Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, well, I think that the catalyst really was the Sheffield United game on Boxing Day, because we had that loss at Swansea, and a draw would have been fair, but Arthur had just a mistake that cost us really. He bounced back really well. But what I thought the team did to go 3-1 down, there was a lot of things around that game as well. No Kakache, what do we do? Left wing back, etc., etc. McLean gone, and it was like, wow, Thomason's just stepped in, hit the ground running, was unbelievable. The team were great. Even going 3-1 down, they still went for it, scored some brilliant goals, beat a really good team 5-3. And I think that just gave everybody a bit more belief that we could do it. And then to go bounce, January, and then through to that FA Cup game as well, the 4 wins, it did just really, before it, you're looking down over your shoulder going, oh, these teams are, how far are we away from those bottom 3 or 4? And then it's like suddenly 2-3 weeks later, you're looking up going, well, we're only actually 3 points off the playoffs here, and we can do this. And it was us that had the momentum in good form. And that good form obviously took us through to that Forest game, which was, an absolutely brilliant game of football. Some brilliant goals in there, some great moments. You could see the class when the subs came on for Forest of what they actually could be from the start. But we hung in there, and then Arthur brings, for going from dropping one at Swansea to being the hero of saving a couple of penalties. I just thought that was a full circle moment for him, and it was a great evening and we've had many of them over the years, haven't we, in the FA Cup?
Absolutely. We have to really talk about the January transfer window. In December, you were really pleased with the business we'd done in the summer. Did you feel the same way at the end of January?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fingers been pointed at the January window of not getting in another centre mid, but you just cannot legislate for what happened to our centre midfield literally the day after the window shut. Okay, I think you could have looked at maybe a left wing back. That was one position that I know they were looking for, but they just didn't manage to get one through the door. And that happens with finances. It happens with players. This is what happens in a window, is that sometimes it just doesn't quite get done. But then for your 2 centre mids playing centre mids to go down with longer term injuries, and then have Dobson sent off for 3 games as well in a game soon after, you cannot legislate for that, because if you have brought in a player, a centre midfielder that's going to play for you, you've got other players that aren't playing, and you've got to keep them happy in a squad somehow as well. And that's very, very difficult to do. And I think it was just a bit of bad luck, really, at that point in the season, that everybody then goes, oh, well, it was the window that was the problem. What we have had is Thomason turned into this absolutely ridiculous wing back that we are really comfortable in having, and he's played pretty much every minute since, hasn't he?
It's too simplistic, isn't it, really, to just say, oh, we didn't have a good January window and that's why it didn't succeed. There are many, many other, reasons. Like we said earlier about the level that you need to be at. Maybe we're just not quite there, which is not surprising, really, is it? Because this is our first season in the Championship. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely that.
It's very simplistic to say that, and I completely get that. In previous years, we've used the last few months of the season to really kick on. We've seen that. That's the reason why we got back to back, which helped us to get promotions. We had some great results against Ipswich Town, for example, and that incredible away day at QPR where we were dead and buried until the kind of last 5-10 minutes, hence where technique came from. But there were other games, like we couldn't kill off Leicester City at home. We lost convincingly at home to Millwall, and then we had that 2-2 away at Bristol City after a massively dominant first half. Did you feel that we were missing that kind of killer instinct that got us over the line in previous seasons?
Maybe a little bit, but we've still gained loads of points from behind. That QPR game being a real pointer for that. Yes, we've got into the leads, but it's not easy keeping these leads at this level. There's good players in these opposition teams, like we're finding, and so you have to somehow manage those reasons and reflect on them and make yourself better. So going 2-0 ahead against Sheffield Wednesday earlier in the season, you don't get into that position again later in the season because you learn from it. I thought Bristol City, the first half, they were immaculate. I thought we were absolutely in total dominance and control, but you're not going to get a full game like that at this level because Bristol City won't let you. Do you know what I mean? And so I think the one game I look back on now is that Leicester game of they just had nothing. And I'm a Leicester fan. And I thought they were so poor. They didn't run for their manager. They weren't running. And I thought then that they have got real problems if they're going to stay in this league, because I thought they were poor. And that last minute equaliser was a real key 2 points that we should really have dropped, and we didn't take. But you could say, well, away at QPR, we were done at 2-1. We played awfully for the majority of the game, but the subs changed the game for us in our favour, and we scored 2 brilliant goals, and we managed to get 3 from nowhere. So I think you have to take that as swings and roundabouts. But this league I've loved it. Absolutely loved the league, and I didn't really want it to stop. I just thought we'd just keep playing, just have another month of it. I don't care if we get in the playoffs or not. I was just loving the games, loving the away games, loving the home game, and the standard of players at the level. I've just absolutely loved the whole thing.
Yeah, no, totally. And then, of course, I mean, we're doing fantastically well in the League Cup. Unfortunately, going out to Cardiff, we got the furthest we've been since the 70s. And then, of course, that fantastic night against Chelsea at the racecourse. Great night for Wrexham. Really pushed a Premier League side toe-to-toe. Provided our first ever direct taste, though, of VAR, which I think is a warning for Wrexham fans when we do get to the Premier League. I mean, what's your feeling on VAR? Where do you stand on the VAR issue?
I think it has to come in because it's so important, but I just think it's being used wrongly, in my view. I don't think it's been brought in to give an offside for a toenail, but that is a legitimate line. Or is it because the ball leaves the foot? Is it when the ball leaves the foot or when it's kicked? There's so much around it. I just think clear and obvious states that it is a clear and obvious mistake. I didn't think that the Dobson one was a sending off. With the furore of the game and the way that it was, yes, it's not a great tackle. Yes, I don't think it's dangerous. He's got to take him out because he's on the travel and going to counter-attack on our defence. So he's done that, and a yellow card's given because of the moment. But then you look back, somebody's miles and miles away, looks at it and goes, well, actually, as a tackle, that looks dangerous to me. Go and have a look at it. Doesn't get a feeling for the game. So anyway, that's a red, but it could be a red quite easily, and we would have probably been screaming for it had it been a Chelsea player. Do you know what I mean? And the same with the offside. It's so tight, the line. I don't think it's been brought in for that. But the noise and that 30 seconds of scoring to when that VAR came up, the check was coming, I've not heard a noise like it. Sam Smith's goal was very near, but that brunt header at the back post was just an immense and a feeling that it's just being taken away, isn't it, and drawn away from the game. And that's why I watch football. That's why I love football, is for those passionate moments, and it just taking a little bit away, isn't it? But people will say, well, it was the correct decision in the end.
But with regards to Wrexham's performance against Chelsea, I mean, for me, although the result didn't go our way, for me that was our best performance of the season, because we absolutely scared Chelsea to death. You know, they really at times looked shaky, and this is a team that is worth, you know, I've spent over the last 10 years £1 billion. I mean, just extraordinary performance from Wrexham on that night.
Yeah, and we really went for them as well, which was really good to see. You know, yes, we had to be really compact with it, but you know, I thought Smith was excellent on the night. I thought the midfielders were great. Everybody played brilliant. Callum Doyle looked like a real Premier League player on the night. You know, I look back as well on the season, and I think that it took a hit on our group. You know, after that, we were then had to go Tuesday, Friday, I think it was, straight afterwards, and to get your mentality, not just your physically get going again, but your mental state to go again. You know, it was an unfortunate timing for the Hull game, and Hull just breezed us a little bit in that next game because we just didn't have anything left, and we couldn't make really the changes that we probably wanted to. But as a one-off game, it was fantastic. Had everything, you know, right through to the 95th minute, or even later. It was all gung-ho, and we had a chance of winning, and we had a chance of losing. And it'll be a game that sticks in the minds of many, many Wrexham fans for a long, long time.
As you rightly say, it kind of seemed to have hurt us for a bit. We started to stutter, and our form, unfortunately, started to drop off just at the wrong point. Until then, we got to that Middlesbrough game a week last Saturday. We've had a tendency over the last number of years, you know, against Boreham Wood, against Forest Green Rovers, against Charlton, where we have pulled it out of the bag on the occasion. We just couldn't quite seem to do that against Middlesbrough. Why do you think that was, compared to the previous years where we have managed to, at the 11th hour, you know, produce the goods, as it were?
Because they're bloody good.
Yeah,
they're fantastic teams. They've got fantastic individuals. I know he didn't play Hayden Hackney, but they've got the Player of the Year in the Championship. So, you know, they're no mugs. These teams. They were in the top two for pretty much the majority of the season. They aren't going to just let you run all over them. They had something to play for at the end of the season as well. I thought they were excellent. I thought they were very, very good. I thought we caused them a lot of problems. We created a lot of chances. I think we had over 20 shots in the game, which is unlike us because we don't really do that. So I thought they were, for having one of the best defences in the league, I thought we had our chances and carved them open fairly easily. But I thought they were really good going forwards. Their movement were brilliant. They had players that could cause you and hurt you every time they got the ball. And I thought it was a great game, to be fair, for the Championship. And these teams aren't going to lie down for you. And we always had, I felt, in the leagues that we had a few better players than the level to get us through and maybe in those moments create it. But at this level, we have got a really gritty Championship team, but elite level players, you know, are hard to come by. And those moments, we have Josh Windass, who I think has been fantastic this last,
superb,
you know, sort of half of the season. He's been brilliant. And he's probably more annoyed with Parky not playing him more, you know. But we're probably looking at this summer transfer window and trying to get a couple of more of those players maybe that have those types of moments to get us through those games that are really tight.
We'll talk about that in a second. I mean, needless to say, Andy, we've exceeded expectations, and we should rightly be proud of achieving our highest league position ever. I mean, that we can never take that away, you know, and that's an
100%.
incredible thing. However, and again, this is for me, I'm just thinking, some have felt that not getting into the playoffs in the position we were in the final weeks and spending the money that we have is a bit of a disappointment. Do you feel they're right?
Personally, no. Because of where we've come from. You have to be realistic. These teams that are in the Championship, they've had 10 years of building Championship teams, and some of them are still struggling to get over halfway in this league. So to come in and then create a team from pretty much swapping half the group around to then pushing and having opportunity to get into the playoffs at the end, I think's remarkable, and credit goes to the players and the staff for being able to do it. We had to spend money. We had to level up the group to where we were. Like I said, these teams have spent maybe 3 or 4 million, 5 million each summer over 10 years. So that's accruing quality players. We've had to do it in one summer. So they can say all they want about spending money. We've got it. We can spend it. It's ludicrous the amount of turnover that we're creating at the moment with overseas, etc., and all the sponsorship that we're gaining. So we have it. We're not nowhere near PSR, but we've had to change pretty much some League One players or League Two or even National League players to remould a group that's good enough to challenge for the Championship. And that's what we've had to do. I don't think we'll spend half as much this summer, but we only need 3 or 4 players now to better what we have got.
We'll talk about that in a second. I just want to touch on the Wrexham women for a second. Huge success with winning the league and the cup double. How impressed have you been with Jenny Sugarman and her team coming in at the 11th hour and then just managing to wipe the board and take out the old status quo of Cardiff City dominating everything and float to the top?
Yeah, again, we've put a little bit of money in as a football club to help with that, and that always helps. But she's done it incrementally, and I think her coming in has taken the standard up another notch. The professionalism up another notch. We've got some professional players in there now, and the quality of player has just gone up. They've lifted the rest of the group as well, and everybody at the football club is better for that, and they have really taken it. And to be able to come out with a couple of pieces of silverware this season in their first year, I think a lot of credit needs to go to Jenny, but not just Jenny. I know Gemma's left or leaving in the summer. A lot of credit needs to fall at her door because it was bleak a fair few years ago for the women's game. Do you know what I mean? And Wrexham, and she's held it together pretty much with plasters and blue tack for a lot of the time. And she doesn't get enough credit for me for doing a brilliant job to have it at where it was, to just hand over to Jenny and Jenny take it on to that next level. I think a huge credit needs to go to all of the staff.
And to Gaz as well, of course, on the under-19s.
Absolutely.
He's grown a league-winning side over the last 3 or 4 seasons. So again, Gaz much better than I do, both as a player and as a person. And you're not surprised by this, are you? Because I'm not.
No, and he's been a brilliant coach for many, many years now, Gaz, and it just hasn't necessarily been pushy with the way that he wanted to do it. He's happy to take the under-19s. He was sort of coming back from his incident that he had, so it suited quite a lot. But he's an absolutely quality, detailed coach, and he's certainly helped those younger girls go up, and Gemma as well, I'm sure, are being around it to really help. And again, like I said, it is all the staff that have been around it that has moved this club forward, and we're moving forward even with the academy boys now. They've got the furthest they've ever got in their youth cup, and so it just seems that the club is going in the one direction, which is up.
I mean, some serious players from the women's side, including Rosie Hughes, have left. Do you think Jenny will go on a serious recruitment drive in the summer just to kind of bolster those numbers and really start lifting to the levels that maybe Wrexham feel they need to be at?
I would expect so. Yeah.
You still there?
Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, I just went on. Yes, I think so. I think she'll have again another little bit of money to go at it, and she's recruited some very, very good players from all over the country, and I'm sure her knowledge and her scouting team have already pinpointed players that they need to look at and to recruit. I don't think it will be 10, 11, 12. I don't think they'll need that, but they'll certainly add to the group that will make them even better than they are at the moment.
And obviously, the Wrexham now are playing back in Europe for the first time since the last century, which is incredible. For our international viewers who maybe don't quite understand, how much of a step is it playing teams in Europe compared to playing domestic sides?
Yeah, again, it's the contrasting styles of football that you have to deal with as much as anything else. When you do go and play these teams abroad. I've really only done it in pre-season games and where I've been when I've been playing, but really contrasting styles. Fitness is where they are levels-wise in their seasons, because they're not all compatible seasons. You have to manage those sort of things, but I think abroad, especially in the women's game, a lot more professional outfits, a lot more semi-professional outfits that they'll be doing a lot more training. And so Wrexham are going to, again, we're talking about recruitment, they're going to have to go again another step and find a way, because these teams are going to be a lot better than probably the majority of games that they're playing at the moment. And I'm sure that if I'm Jenny, I'm really looking forward to going and pitting my wits against anybody in Europe and going and giving a good account of ourselves and putting a pin on the map, if you like, that Wrexham are back.
Totally and utterly, yep. Moving forward then for the men, Phil Parkinson, as you mentioned earlier, he'll certainly look to build from the fantastic season we've just had. What's at the top of his shopping list for you, Andy? Where primarily do you think he's going to look to strengthen?
Well, I think a left wing back and a right wing back, because obviously Kabore goes back. I think they will be top of his shopping list. Yes, we've got Kakache. We'll just have to see how he goes in the World Cup. Hopefully, he'll have an amazing World Cup. He'll probably end up player of the tournament for New Zealand, do you know what I mean? Or something like that, after overseeing him for a few games this year. I know I spoke to him on the pitch after the game in last game of the season, and he's just itching to just get some continuity. He just can't believe the season that he's had from where he was.
He's been really unlucky, hasn't he?
In the past, really 5 seasons, and it's just been really difficult for him. But I know he's driven. I know he's desperate to get back and play. I think he's driven. The physio's a bit wild with him just wanting to push. But I'd rather have that than somebody comfortable sat in the back of the treatment room, do you know what I mean? And watch him from there. So hopefully he'll have a really good and healthy World Cup, and then come back and hit pre-season running. I think they'll need a backup for him. We have got Thomason, obviously, that we can utilise, but I think we'll be looking maybe to get him back into his original position. He's been excellent, and he was right in there the last 6 months. If he'd have started the season there, he'd probably been up there for Player of the Year. And to do what he has done is remarkable, to play a new position and be so comfortable in there. But I think they'll be looking for his legs back in the centre of midfield to give us another option, if you like. And then we need to either sign Kabore if Phil Parkinson believes that he's the one, or go and find somebody else that is maybe, again, a level above that to give us another option on that right-hand side, because Longman, I think, has got another year. So I think those 2 positions would be one. Obviously, every football club, every manager wants a striker, because we always do, because why not? So I'm sure they'll be looking up the top end of the pitch as well. But I think we've got 5 decent, good defenders, even 6 centre-halves that can play the 3 positions. I think that's good competition there. I think we've got okay goalkeepers for the level. Midfield, if we can keep them all healthy, is strong as well. So, yeah, I think those are if they're going to get 3, I'd go left wing back, right wing back, and a striker.
What was your take on the whole Ward coming in for the last few games and Arthur being, moved to the bench? I mean, do you think that was deliberate by Parky, or it was a Parky feeling he had to try and fix something that he felt needed fixing?
Yeah, well, we come off the back of two defeats, and with only 4 games to go, I think probably Phil Parkinson thought that I need to do something. I need to jolt something in there that's going to make all of the lads stand up and go, right, well, wow. And I think Arthur had played all right. I think just on the Birmingham game, when watching it, his distribution, his kicking, it was asking a lot of Kiefer at the top end of the pitch. And you could see a few of the players just remonstrated with him a little bit. And it's a big part of Arthur's game that he needs to develop, is his distribution and his kicking. And Wardy's got that in abundance. And I just think he looked at the experience that Wardy would bring. He's back fit. He was fresh. He was keen. I think it just made sense, and it sent a few shockwaves through the stands. Never mind the team. You know what I mean? Yeah. To say nobody's safe here, regardless of how well you're playing. And I think we went and won, 2 and kept 2 clean sheets off the back of it. So he would, Phil Parkinson would probably say it worked. And then it's now, I think it's open to the 3 of them again to go, and the place is yours. However you're playing in pre-season.
Well, they've only all got 1 year left in their contracts, haven't they? So I would imagine there will be some serious conversations to be had with regards to the three of them. You're absolutely right.
They may go and just go and get. Sorry, they may go and go and just think, right, I'm going to go and get another number one keeper. We're just going to go out and get an amazing keeper. And with Arthur, with a year left, if he's not happy signing a new deal, then do you potentially sell? Do you know what I mean? And bring in another keeper that might be your number one for the season and go for it and try and better what you've got already. I'm sure they're looking in all departments to better the team.
Totally, totally agree with you there, Andy. Some exciting friendlies this summer for Wrexham Men. Which one are you looking forward to the most?
Well, it's not Aberystwyth, is it? So, or Lex at the moment. So,
no.
I think if I'm a player, you're absolutely looking forward to them all. Do you know what I mean? I hope there's a home friendly at the back end of that when they go away. I hope they come back and we're able to fit in a home friendly, because we missed that last season with the pitch and all that. That would be really good to get. But yeah, Liverpool, United, we're all over the place, aren't we? I think it's going to be an amazing pre-season. I think the fans will be looking forward to it. I think the Krakow one and the Finland one, they're accessible to a lot of Wrexham fans. So I'm sure they'll get really good followings going out there. And then obviously the States, we have to do the States. After being in Australia, New Zealand last summer, I think we have to do it, just going off the back when the World Cup finishes. Again, to promote the documentary and just to be over there to keep our fans happy. Do you know what I mean? We've got so many in America now.
I mean, Yankee
Stadium
versus Liverpool really is just a mouth-watering kind of, just the tie and the place and the team itself. It's just going to be absolutely brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, and Eric Allen, speaking to him, he's like, you don't realise that the Yankee Stadiums is our Wembley, really, of sport over there. And to play a game there is going to be insane. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be amazing. I'm sure they're all looking forward to that one. But if I'm a player, I'm looking forward to all of them. If I'm a player, I can't wait to get back in pre-season and get going again now, because we're so close. They should be driven. They shouldn't be upset. They shouldn't be disappointed. Yes, I'm sure they're disappointed at the final whistle, speaking to a few of the players. Yeah, it's raw. It hurts. But there should be so many positives that you can take from the season, that we're going to grow and go again, that I'm already looking forward to it. I don't care about them.
No, exactly. No, I mean, as a fan and yourself as well, it's just everything is there to look forward to. I mean, before you know it, the new league season will be on us. Obviously, Wolves and Burnley, Cardiff City and Lincoln City all joining us. Possibly West Ham, and possibly even Tottenham in the Championship, which is just crazy. We've reached 7th this season, which has been incredible. Difficult second Championship, lots more competition. See, if there are teams like Tottenham coming in, that's huge. Do we need to temper our expectations as fans a little bit for that second Championship season? Or can we be super confident and say, well, we almost got to the playoffs. There's more playoff places going to be available now. Absolutely we should be aiming for the playoffs.
No, I with the situation that the group's in and the situation of how we got and just missed out, I think that if we're looking to progress, we have to be looking to go one better, if you like, than 7th. And I know 8th you get in now in next season, but can we get in the playoffs? That must be the aim for us this season. It's not just those teams that are coming in. It's the teams like Sheffield United will be better next season. These teams that have underperformed in my eyes, they will be better next season. So teams coming in are better. These other teams are going to be better. It's going to be even harder. And that's possibly a little bit of a disappointment, is this opportunity was there and we've just missed out. Yes, we've been brilliant and had a great season, but was that the opportunity to go and do it? Because it's going to be even harder next season. But this is the story, isn't it? Wrexham keep rewriting their stories. Who knows? We might be fighting relegation next year and hopefully stay up in the last game of the season. Who knows what it might look like next season.
Andy, no.
But
can't handle that.
We
Can't
can only
handle that.
look, and the momentum and the players, and I'm sure the recruitment that we will have in the summer will only strengthen us to go on and go better next season. Fingers crossed.
I mean, the future is very, very positive for the club. Far more positive than it's been for a long, long, long time. And you've been
Yes.
You've been at the very sharp end of the really, really worst bit. So it must be for you. It must be just an absolute delight to be involved as a fan and as a pundit with Wrexham as they are right now.
Oh, it is a dream, really, because I couldn't see this happening 5, 10, 15 years ago, you know, where the club is. If you'd have given me Football League when I left there in whatever it was, I'd have took your hand off it if I was watching EFL football from the stands. It would have been amazing. But to be 7th and be disappointed that we've not got in the playoffs of the Championship, come on. We need some reality here and go, hang on a sec. This is probably the best time to ever support Wrexham Football Club. There isn't a better team out there, I believe, to be supporting with the hope and the dream and the aspirations that this football club has, and the way that the owners are going about doing that, if you like. Let's enjoy it. Let's really enjoy it and stick with the people that are there and get behind them at all times, because it's going to be difficult. There's going to be difficult times coming at some point, I'm sure, but as a group, let's just enjoy what we've got and what we're having, and enjoy the football and smile, because it is ace.
This might be a very difficult question for you, Andy, because we've had such a season of highlights. But what's been your favourite moment for the 25-26 season for you?
It's a great question, because there were so many. I think we went through it on Matchday Live, actually. We had a few quirky ones, but I think the Sam Smith goal against Chelsea was a moment that I will never forget. I thought it was an amazing goal for a striker as well. The movement, his run, and the finish. I thought that was brilliant. And the noise that came from the stands that day when we scored was amazing. The 20 seconds when Brunt scored. But I think you can't look much further, can you, than Ollie Rathbone's moment at QPR, from where we were dead and buried in the game. The commentary, the outstanding, the fans. Windas's, little 10-minute cameo that he produced that day. I think that was just a real turning point, that we can do this and we can win from anywhere and get anything out of any game. And we always believe and don't go home early, I think was probably the moment of the season, wasn't it?
Absolutely, Andy. Well, thanks as always for your time, your very valuable time. It's been great to hear you and Mia and Mark and Chris on Matchday Live. Absolutely brilliant. I know from all the messages we get from around the world how people absolutely love it. People absolutely love your commentary and with Mia and Mark. So keep it up. Absolutely, just nothing but great things to look forward to for the rest of the season. Thanks for your time, and hopefully we'll have a chat at Christmas when we're that much closer to the Premier League.
No, thanks for having me on. Loved it. Thanks for a lot.
This week's pod obviously is entitled What Happens Now for a reason. For both the men's and women's sides, undoubtedly Wrexham have exceeded expectations, to say the least. The women's side won their first silverware by getting their Dun Trophy, beating Cardiff City, then became the first North Wales club to win the top league in Cymru since it's been reformed and qualified for the Champions League qualification for the first time in the women's history. We had the biggest league attendance of the season, and Katie Barker became the first player to score more than 20 goals in a season in the Adran Premier League. The men reached 7th in the Championship League for the highest league position in our 162-year history. We reached the 5th round of the FA Cup for the first time in over 30 years, and reached the 4th round of the League Cup for the first time since the 1970s. All amazing things and absolutely should be applauded, but football never stands still. So as we move into the new season, some important decisions will need to be made around playing staff for both squads to be set up for the 2026-27 season to come. So I thought I'd look at both squads and see where I'd look to recruit in the summer to set both sides up for the new season. So a couple of caveats before we begin. There's no change of formation, so these will be going on the most used formation by both managers. And I'm going to ignore current contracts. This basically is who I think should be within the squads and who I think we should either let go, pay off, or loan out to other clubs. Gentlemen, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go through it, and I want your opinion on whether you think I'm right, whether you think I'm wrong, where you would change, where you would bring in, or where you wouldn't. First of all, Wrexham Women. After the releases that we announced 2 weeks ago and the players who've retired, this is who we have left. Phoebe Davis, Michaela Wildgoose obviously is injured. Fuller and Holt, who is also injured, and Clark. Maz Mahmood, obviously on the bench. And then the starting 11, who you put in the starting 11 at the moment: Craven in goal, Bartle, Francis Jones, Lily Jones, Smith, Harvey, Suckley, Knox and Barker. This is who my starting 11 would be. Just some information. The transfer window opens on the 15th of June, closes on the 31st of August, exactly the same as the men. Pre-season friendlies will probably be in early July because they have a Champions League qualifier on the 22nd of July with the location to be decided mid-June. And if anybody's really, really interested, go and look up the Red Horde on YouTube. Sean has done a fantastic video on actually how women's Champions League qualification works, how the coefficients work, how the points work. It's brilliant. It's a 30-minute video. And it will tell you everything you need to know. He's done so much research. It's incredible.
He hasn't used any drone footage, has he?
No, he hasn't. No, so he won't get banned, don't worry.
Go for that.
The Adran Premier itself starts in early September. Squad rules for the women's game. Clubs in the General Adran Premier must submit a squad list with a minimum of 18 players and a maximum of 25 players. And within that 25-player limit, teams are also required to include at least 2 recognised goalkeepers and a minimum of 8 homegrown players, which means players that were previously registered with the Football Association of Wales to play for either Wrexham or another club. So, with the players we currently have left, if you count, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So without even getting any further, we've got to get another 3 players in to meet that bottom 18-player limit. We do hit the 8 homegrown players because there are 8 players in there that have already been registered with Wrexham, so that's okay. The way I look at it as a minimum, I think that we need 2 new centre-backs. Particularly the fact that Michaela Wildgoose is injured. Obviously, she would normally play in that kind of left centre-back position. But while she's injured, I think our biggest problem last year was the defence. Obviously, from a keeper's point of view, we've lost both the reserve keepers. The question being is whether we keep Lizzie in goal or whether we look to get a keeper to replace Lizzie. That's a question that I'm going to ask you both. Midfield, we're doing pretty well because, as you can see, we've got Maria Francis Jones, Lily Jones, Smith and Harvey, who are doing quite well on that side from that point of view. And I haven't put Suckley on the wing as Jenny Sugarman has tried Ava on the wing because I think she is better in the middle of the park, backing up as that kind of alongside that kind of number 10 position with Knox and obviously Katie Barker up front. But I do think with the bench that we've got with midfields, I do think that we need another midfielder in there. And I do think we need another striker to back Katie Barker up because we've lost now, obviously we lost Abby Indenden. Put your teeth in. And obviously Maz Mahmood hasn't been starting at the moment. That's my approach at it. Jamie, is there anything that you disagree with or you think that I'm being too cautious about?
No, I think that's a pretty fair assessment, isn't it, of where we're at and what we need. I think we discussed last week, didn't we? The number of names that were on the release list was quite a surprise to us, and makes you think they've got some irons and some fires already. I think you're right. I think we're quite lucky, really, from like a midfield and an attacking point of view. I think we're reasonably strong. I agree. I think she'll probably be looking to bring in an additional striker now Abby Inden's gone. But you're right. I think that the defence and the goalkeeper is kind of where the focus will probably be more than anything. Unfortunately, with Wild Goose's injury, that being a bad one, without sounding disrespectful, you almost need to sort of treat her as if she's not there, sort of thing, because she's going to be out for such a long period of time. So I think you're right. I think you're going to have to be looking at probably at least 2 good centre backs or defenders that can cover either centre back or play along a back 4 if she wants to change to that. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because it's easy to put down on a piece of paper, isn't it? 2 new goalkeepers and 2 new central defenders, but it's not that easy, is it? Particularly in the women's game, attracting players, and like we talked about last week, what kind of players are we going to be bringing in? That's going to be the interesting thing. Are we going to be, are these going to be maybe, are they going to be players from a similar level from other teams in the Adran Prem, or are these going to be more in the Bartle and Katie Barker realms where we brought them in from the WSL 2 or whatever, and are we going to be talking about more full-time contracts? It'll be fascinating to see who comes in, that's for sure. But to be fair, I don't think you're far off the mark there. Arguably, maybe 2 in midfield, just because, again, I think there's quite a few names in there that have been offered deals, haven't they? But at the moment, it's still TBC whether they're going to take them. Possibly an additional midfielder, but yeah, I don't think you're too far away there, to be fair.
I mean, Daz, it shows, doesn't it, how much shopping that Jenny and her team are going to have to do, because the window opens in June. They've got this European qualifier July. If we want players to play in that, they're going to have to register them quite quickly. And you can see, yes, all right, in the Adran Premier, you can only have 5 on the bench and 11 on the field. That's only 16. But I think this, if you ignore the players that are in red, who I'm suggesting, that maybe Jenny needs to shop for, it's looking quite thin now with all the players who have been released and the players who have decided to retire or stop their careers.
Yeah, and like you said, I was going to ask, or not, I was going to point out that there are still some of these names may still go.
Yeah,
so it could be even more. I'm not going to say dire. I think you're right. I think Jamie's point about irons in fires. I think there's going to be there would have been constantly throughout that season gone, thoughts ahead. Who else? Because we've all been impressed by the recent additions, and some of those came from what felt like from nowhere, from real left field, really impressive acquisitions. Who clearly, the team, the scouting team, whether it's the management itself or whether it's scouting teams or whatever, they're finding some good players who have been willing to come and play in a different league. The incentive I always imagined was the potential to be playing in Europe. So does that mean they will get more players? They will get these extra players quite quickly, which will be quite good for the club as well, because there's inevitable. You find that you get last minute additions and the transfer window closes, but you get those last minute signings, and they're never any. There's no time to bed them in because they've missed pre-season, they've missed training camps, they've missed the first couple of games. So actually having a deadline like the European game could be really healthy for Wrexham to push the signings early, build up that team suitable enough for a European campaign. I mean, I have no idea what level of expectation the club and Jenny Sugarman and anybody else has of Wrexham's progression in Europe. I mean, the idea of being able to be part of the competition is still fantastic in the first instance, but it's taken decades for the men's team to get to a place where it was a meaningful next step. And here, to think that the women's team could be that, I don't know. I mean, it really, it'll be interesting to see, and I'll be interested to watch that clip about the coefficient, because the clubs, the countries from which the clubs come from that they will be drawn against will be minnows, but are they? Where on the sliding scale of minnows are we as the Welsh League, and therefore Wrexham's position in the draw? So that'll be interesting. But picking up on, I mean, obviously you've got to have two goalkeepers, so they are going to go and shop for a goalkeeper. Simple as.
Yeah.
And inevitably they are going to pitch as high as they can to the best standards. And I think it'll be inevitable that Craven will drop to the number 2, because you're not going to be buying, unless they struggle to find anybody for the wages, for the contracts, and they have to bring somebody through the youth system or something like that to backfill. I don't think there's any value in buying anybody in that isn't genuinely pushing to make the team stronger. And so and Craven's been really, really good for you, but there are better keepers out there. I just don't know whether or not the club and the wages and the contracts will be able to entice them. So I do think that's going to happen. I think regardless of what formation across the back, you have to have more defenders. And with the injury lists you've had in the last year or so, Wildgoose being a good example now, you've got to bolster that. So I think you've nailed it there. I think it's the way that she plays. The rotation always comes in midfield. The rotation comes in the wingers. So you do want to have a little bit more depth in those positions. But it's so thin at the back. Goalkeeping, defenders, that's got to be the first phase. Get that solid defence, because you've got goals throughout your team. You've got goals throughout your team, as well as the number 1 goal scorer in the history of the league. So, I don't think you need to worry about that. If you can stop the goals going in, you're going to be already even further ahead than most of the teams in the league. But the European games, it'll be interesting to see who the draw gives you.
As I say, go and watch the Red Horde, Sean. It's about 30 minutes. The video talks about the fact is that there's, which I didn't realise, there's a difference between club points and country points that you earn depending on how far through the process you go. And I'd always kind of known that we hadn't, as a nation, done particularly well, but I'd never realised that we haven't scored a goal in the Champions League qualifying. No, we haven't even scored a goal for 6 years. Swansea City were the last team to score a goal in a defeat, and that was in 2020. So it's. I mean,
we are genuinely, we are minnows on a list of minnows. And
there's only 2 sides below us in the rankings. We're 50 something, and Azerbaijan is one of them. So we are right down the bottom of the pile. So there are lots of other sides, and again, Sean points out where you can go onto a UEFA website that shows you who on the ranking list, how many teams they can get into the competition, who those teams are if they've already qualified, where on the ranking list they are, so you can actually have a good estimation of who we might pull. And there's some big names in there. There are some big names, even at the lower levels.
And I'm first, when you kind of first sort of share or describe that situation, I mean, it does sound like we are a weak nation and a dire nation, but it's, of course, this is where having a bigger, neighbour who can sort of pull the talent away from Wales very easily and quickly to the WSL and WSL2. And I'm sure other countries, I'm sure, I don't know, the Ukrainians will say, our players go to Poland, or, I'm sure the Romanians say that they go off to Greece or something. I don't know. I don't know enough about the international women's game. And for every one of those countries, I'm sure there's a reason. Maybe it's because they're new to the women's game, is still in its infancy and its popularity and things like that. And I would say that Wales is probably part of that history. But I think because we lose so much talent to England, we've always just historically gone, we're just, if you want to proceed with a career in football, you just bypass the Welsh League. And so hopefully now, with the likes of Wrexham's profile, hopefully now with more teams going to contracts, whether it's semi-pro, pro contracts, that will build. But it's going to take a decade probably to get to any meaningful place. But hey, we've got to start. This is the first step on that journey.
Win. If you take anything from Sean's videos, win. You need to win. If you win, that gives you a huge boost points-wise. Win. Score a goal, yes, but win primarily. Let's move to Wrexham Men. This has been a lot tougher, obviously, because of the numbers, and can be a lot more divisive. And as I say, this is just my take on it. I'd be very interested to hear what Jamie and Daz have to say on this one. So Looking at the men currently, obviously looking at the right-hand side there, release list, we've already know those 7 players have been released. This is who I would put out on loan. Ashfield Cody, Keeler Dunn, Moore, James, Owen and Kadamatri. I would push them all out on loan. Loan them off to League One clubs. Ideally League One, not League Two, if we can. I would sell Barnett, O'Connor, Scar, Revan, Farl, Hardy, Burton and Longman. And I would pay off, because I think they deserve it for all the services to Wrexham, I would pay Paul Mullin and Lee off completely. Now, the rules for the men, very similar to the women. Transfer window opens again on 15th of June, closes 31st of August. Pre-season friendlies Wrexham have. We're away to Wisla Krakow on the 11th of July, away to Manchester United in Helsinki on the 18th of July. We have 3 games in the US versus Leeds United on the 25th of July, Liverpool on the 29th of July and Sunderland on the 2nd of August. Then when we play that last game, the first round of the EFL League Cup starts on between the 7th and 9th of August, so only 5 days after that last friendly in America. And then the championship season starts a week later on Friday the 14th to Sunday the 16th of August. Squad rules. Championship clubs must submit a formal senior squad list to the EFL within 24 hours of the closing of the transfer window. There is a 25-player maximum, so you can register a maximum of 25 senior contracted players. Goalkeepers count, unlike League 1 and League 2, so any goalkeeper aged 21 or older must be included in this 25-man squad list. There is an under-21 exemption. Players who are under the age of 21 at the start of the calendar year, January the 1st, do not need to be registered and are exempt from the 25-man cap, provided they are on a permanent contract. If you have a under 21 on loan, they count. So you can't bring them in and expect them to be free. They are part of your 25-man squad. There is a homegrown player quota, like the women. A minimum of 8 players in the 25-man squad must be homegrown, which is a player of any nationality who have been registered with an FA or FAW-affiliated club in England and Wales for at least 3 seasons or 36 months before their 21st birthday. There is also a club-developed player quota, so it must include at least 1 club-developed player on the matchday team sheet. So that's a player who was registered with a specific parent club for at least 12 months prior to the end of the under-19 season. If the club doesn't do that, then they are penalised by only allowing to have 8 substitutes on the bench. If they have a club-developed player, they can have 9. Bit confusing, but that's the way it is. Loan restrictions. A club can sign multiple players on loan, but there are strict limits on how they can be registered selected, so that you can only have 5 loan players can be named in a single matchday squad. There is an under-21 loan exception, and under-21 loan players who are on loan are not exempt, as I said earlier, and they must be named in the 25-man squad and take up a senior spot. And there are club-to-club limits. A championship team may sign a maximum of 4 players on loan from the same club, but only a maximum of 2 can be over the age of 23. And let's not forget this year, which we will talk next year a bit next week a bit more about. We now fall under the SCR rules, the squad cost rules for financial framework. So unlike PSR, which talked about a £33 million loss over 3 seasons, now there is an 85% spending cap. So clubs can operate under the SCR rules, which limits total spending on player and manager-related costs, including wages and transfers, to 85% of a club's total revenue. And there's an equity top-up where club owners are allowed to inject a flexible equity top-up allowance of up to £33 million over a rolling 3-year period, but capped at a maximum of £15 million in a single season to bolster financial capacity. We'll talk about SCR next week, because that's a whole other thing in itself compared to PSR. But this is where personally I see, and remembering that we have a 25-player limit, I've put no young players in this list because the young players that we've offered contracts to aren't part of this anyway. So they're not here. But there are, with these new players that I think we need to go out and buy, 25 players that would be in this squad. So from a goalkeepers, you will have noticed that I've put Arthur and Danny Ward on the bench. Because Callum Burton, obviously, I've already said I think we should sell. I don't think he's going to want to stay number 3 goalkeeper. And I think we need to go out and shop for a new goalkeeper, because I think Arthur has been damaged by what's happened at the end of the season. And I think it will affect him. It's possible if we can't get a number one keeper, that he will start the season, but I can honestly think, for me, I think we should go out and look for a brand new keeper. From defence, obviously, what Cleworth, I would put Doyle and Brunt on the bench. Brunt I've given a little bit of leeway to because of his injury. He's on the cusp for me, whether he is good enough, but I've not seen enough of him to say whether he is good enough or not. I would try Viner in that position because we've not seen him yet. You could always then drop Cleworth in there if you needed to. Keep Dom Hyam in the middle, but I would bring in a new centre-back. I think Doyle is absolutely brilliant, but he has his problems, and his problem is defending for me, and he needs to be a defender. And I know he gives good service from his position, and yes, he does. He does defend. He's just not consistent. And as you said last week, Jamie, when we were talking about player of the season, you can't really give it to Dom Hyam when we have conceded the most amount of goals that we have in many, many years. Midfield, I kept Sheaf, I kept Dobson, I kept Rathbone, I kept Thomason, but I haven't put them as starters. I think we should have 2 new starters, which includes a new wing-back to replace Issa Kabore. I'm hoping Kikache will go to the World Cup and smash it up, and he'll come back completely ready for a new season. I've left Matty James in there because I think he is important. I think this will be his last season, and again, he's on the cusp for me, but I think I would put him in there because I think he's a good rock in that centre. But I would get a new central midfielder. Again, whether it would be a defensive central midfielder or an attacking central midfielder, I'm not sure. And then forwards, Smith, Broadhead and Moore, I'd keep them in. But I move Moore now to the bench. I think we need a new striker. I think we need that new multi-million-pound striker who is going to bang in the goals. With Windass and O'Brien behind them to give them that service, I think that's a key. All those players there, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 6 new players I think Parky needs to shop for, but that is 25 players in the squad. So, Jamie, a lot of information there. This, as I said, is just my opinion. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts is, I think you must have been smoking some crack when you did this, because there's a few things in here. I mean, there's elements of it that I agree with, but there's some things in it. I mean, how on earth you've not got Doyle in your starting lineup is beyond me.
He's not consistent enough.
I know you've explained your reasons, but you're wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, he is our best potential defender. I think. I think you grow with him. I mean, I'll be flabbergasted if we keep hold of him, to be honest. But I do agree with you that there is potentially a question mark over whether he will go out for another centre back. For me, the question is, I agree with you. I think probably Dan Scar's time has come to an end. As good of a job as he did do last year, he kind of proved he can do it at Championship level. But the question will be whether Brunt is kind of kept on, or whether we, you've got to remember. I think the key to all this is we've got to be ruthless.
Yeah.
If we seriously want to build on where we finished last season, we've got to be ruthless. And
the only
therefore,
reason I gave him a pass is because he's been injured for the majority of the season. And actually, when we played Chelsea and he came on, I was impressed. I was impressed by the shift he put in. Yes, it wasn't for very long. And let's not forget, he scored that goal. It was only VAR that ruled it out. So,
to be fair, I would keep Brunt. I would keep him because I think he naturally fits in on that left side, which is always a difficult position to fill. He's in he's just about to come into his prime years. If you can keep him fit, I rate Brunt, so I would absolutely keep him as a squad defender for sure. But I don't necessarily disagree with you that he might be shopping for another centre back, for the squad depth. But yeah, I categorically disagree with you that Doyle shouldn't be on there. For me, I wouldn't be surprised if we start next season with Hyam, Doyle, and as you put Viner there. I think we've got to remember that Viner really was brought in as a centre back, and we've not seen him play centre back. He played a little bit defensive midfield, and then he got injured. So just going back to positions to your goalkeeper, I agree with you. I think we will be shopping for a new number one. Where I probably slightly disagree is I think one of Okonkwo or Ward will probably go, and it's, as much as I hate to say it, I think it's more likely to be Okonkwo. I think he will be. The fact that there's been no talk of a new contract, he's entering the last year of his deal. He's he has a value. You could sell him and actually make money on him. Nobody's going to buy Danny Ward, to be fair. And I just think with what happened last season and with the way that Parky obviously decided to start the season and end the season with Danny Ward, I think, and I said this when we talked about it, damning for me. And I really feel for Arthur, to be honest with you, because I genuinely think there's a really good goalkeeper in there. And you've got to remember he's young. So I'm flabbergasted really that we're in this situation with Arthur, but I can honestly see him going. I wouldn't be surprised if Burton stays as number 3. He's been content. He's been content from what we can see from the outside looking in. He seems to have been content in that position. So I can see him being number 3, Danny Ward being number 2, and us bringing in a new goalkeeper. Again, going back to what I was saying a minute ago about being ruthless and trying to build on what we achieved last season, i.e. getting in the playoffs or even fighting for automatics. We have to be serious about it and going out and getting a top draw championship goalkeeper. You know, the lad from Stoke would have been a good shout, but he's just signed a new deal. Personally, the one that I would probably be having a sniff around is that Vitek, that the lad that was at Bristol City on loan from Man United, because I can't see him getting anywhere near the Man United squad. But he was a very good goalkeeper for Bristol City. Obviously Rushworth at Coventry, but I can't see that he's going to be available, to be honest with you. But agree. Wing backs. I think Kakachi will be given another chance. You know, I think we've got to give him another chance, and you know, hopefully he gets another chance to prove that he's not made of crackers. But I think really, I think we're going to be looking at probably 2, if not 3 wing backs. You know, I think Thomason did a fantastic job in that position, but it was just a stopgap. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't disagree with you putting Longman in the sell category, but I'm not sure. I think that's what they'll do. I think Parky quite likes Longman, and although he's definitely not first choice because of his versatility, I think he might be somebody worth having in the squad. So I'm not sure about Longman going.
So who would you replace him with, though? Because as I say, with those 6 players that I've said bringing in, that's 25 players. If you bring Longman back in, you have to push somebody else out.
Well, what I mean is that at the minute you've got Kakachi still in that team, and 2 new wing back. Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe you're right. Maybe he has to go if you're going to be bringing in 2 wing backs. I think we have to bring in 2 top level wing backs, 1 for each side. And for me, that's a must. Central midfield, I slightly disagree with you. I think Matty James is important, but I think as a squad player, I would have Sheaf in there as my first choice defensive midfielder. I agree we need another central midfielder, but I would say we need a creative centre midfielder, someone that can link the play. You know, someone that can actually dictate or change the course of a game. I don't think we have that at the minute. I kind of hoped O'Brien would be that, but I don't think he is that. So yeah, I agree. A central midfielder, but for me, an attacking, you know, a forward-thinking central midfielder. And then yeah, I 100% agree with you up front. I think Kiefer Moore now really it should take that Stephen Fletcher role, that impact sub role. You know, somebody that can come on with half an hour to go to you know, give you something different. But 100%, we need a shiny new top draw striker, and I think that's a given. The rest of them that you've put on there on your loan, you sell, and you pay off. You know, I agree with Ashfield. Definitely sign him up to a new deal and then get him a good loan move out. Connor Cody, you're gonna have to loan him out to the end of his deal. Keeler Dunn's an interesting one because, you know, we've given him a contract till 2029. You know, we've signed him for 2-3 million quid, whatever it was. He hasn't really been given a proper chance, has he? So,
but is he good enough to take up a squad place? Because if you put him in the squad place, you have to get rid of somebody from somewhere else.
I'm just genuinely perplexed by that signing, to be honest with you, because the amount of lack of minutes he played since January is just confused the hell out of me. But yeah, you know, you might be right. Maybe if Parky doesn't think that he's worth, or you know, is going to contribute enough as a member of the squad, then you'll have to loan him out, because you know, what else can you do with him? Again, Cadamartri, I'm not sure I think loaning him out would be the best thing, but I'm not sure he will get loaned out because he's under the age cap, isn't he? So he's like a free hit, so he may get kept around. The cells you've got there, yeah, Barnett, O'Connor, Scar, Revan, Mofal, Hardy. I agree with all of them. I don't think any of them have got, you know, I've got a future really. Hardy just didn't work. Mofal just didn't work, and the rest are pretty obvious. And again, wholeheartedly agree with your sentiment on Mullin and Lee. I think it's safe to say that their time at the club is come to an end, and they absolutely deserve to be paid out in full the remainder of their contracts, and then let them have a chance at going out and trying to secure themselves one final decent 2 or 3 year deal somewhere else, to be able to sort of see out their careers. We owe them that. You know, the last thing you want is them just kicking their heels in the reserves, or you know, just because they want to run down their contract. But you know, their contracts will be lucrative, so you can't blame them for wanting to get what they're owed, kind of thing. So hopefully we'll do the right thing with both of them, and they'll get they'll get paid off in full, and hopefully get a decent and a proper send off as well.
Daz, this is harder for you, obviously, because you don't follow Wrexham maybe as closely as Jamie and I do. 6 new players that Parky will have to bring in. I mean, there's no denying that we haven't had no problem scoring goals, but at times we've had big problems with them being let in. And obviously that whole piecing, the whole getting the ball through to the attacking players seems to have been a problem, particularly in midfield when we had those injuries. I mean, would you say this looks balanced and strong enough to maybe compete as we go into our second season in the Championship?
No, well, yes. I mean, any fantasy Championship manager will probably agree. But like you said, you've got to find these players. You've got to convince them to come and join you. I was curious. You've got 6 there. What's the going rate? I suppose your striker's probably going to be premium. Your goalkeeper's going to be premium, just to be able to get the caliber that you're looking for. So are we talking 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 7 million, 10 million plus? I mean, just 6 players, this is going to cost you a bit. So it's a big question, isn't it? It's like, after being criticised for spending 30 million in terms of last year. I mean, of course, you might make something from your sales, but and I agree. I thought Longman was. I was surprised to hear that Longman was on there, because obviously the sentiment for Longman, for Barney, O'Connor, and the things like that. But I know there's no place for sentiment. But I thought Longman had been, from hearing and watching the bits that I'd seen, I thought maybe he would still be around. But I thought I was going to ask you about Ashfield, because obviously he seems to be the golden boy that's come through the academy. He had played a couple of games with the seniors, so whether or not does he not want to, be your another free pass for under 21s? How old is he at the moment?
Well, he's unfortunately he's not under 21 anymore, so he would count. Obviously, so he would be the club-grown player, so we could increase our bench to 9 if we included him, but he would have to count as one of the...
And that was my other question. Do you not have... Because obviously Cleworth's been there for years, but I didn't know...
I was going to say, Max, does Max tick that box?
I think Max does tick that box, yes. I think.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I was thinking, like, I was going through the list, trying to work out, have I moved my brother's coat to the higher peg? And there's a lot of rules going on here, and I was very, very confused. So I was trying to see if I could work out who your club developed player was, the homegrown. You don't have to go through it now, but yeah, do you have enough in place? So Cleworth would give you that, obviously, and Ashfield also give you that. So it's interesting whether or not
Parky doesn't really do loans, which we've seen over the years. Kabori was the only player we loaned last season. Arthur was the only player we loaned the season before that. Can you see Parky, Daz, maybe dipping more? Because all the rest of the Championship teams do dip much more into the loan market, particularly loaning from Premier League clubs. Can you see Parky maybe doing more of that rather than the, as you rightly said, the outlay potentially that it could be for paying big money for a star striker, a star goalkeeper, whatever it may be?
I mean, if I wasn't aware until you sort of shared those stats about the fact that his loan numbers are quite scarce in that sense. It's a very astute way of keeping your books manageable, not committing to because when you say, oh, he's in a contract till 2029 and those are the conversations where you go like, and if it doesn't work, you are then locked in. And as these prices get more and more, the wages are getting higher and higher, that these mistakes cost you more. So loans do make more sense at this level in that way. But I don't know. I mean, again, people know what Project Wrexham looks like now. The fact that it's not a flash in the pan, it's got stability, it's managed to make it to the Championship, it pushed for a Premier League position, and yet I think there's an appeal. There's a brand that you can buy into. There's a plan. There's a vision, and I think you can get some really good players. Whether or not those prices match, and this is where my lack of knowledge of what were Coventry paying their players, what are Southampton, maybe less these days. They might have to, but the Birmingham's, what is the going rate for that league, and can you compete? Because again, there's a project at Birmingham that's kind of slowly building up momentum, and maybe stalled this season a little bit, but I don't see that lasting long. I see them regrouping and investing. There are other teams. Hell, there's going to be a West Ham or a Spurs. It's going to come down to the figures, the finances as well. So it's not a case of can you find them and who they are you willing to spend that money for them?
Jamie, 2 questions. One, how much do you think we're going to spend this summer, based on whether it be these 6 or more or less? And 2, are we going to do more business earlier, or do you think it's going to be the usual everything kind of at the last minute while we try and chase the players that we truly want?
We're going to spend £1 billion. No, look, I like I said before, and I think it was mentioned on the doc. Sean Harvey explaining, and it's really important that people remember that yes, Wrexham spent 30 odd million quid last summer, but that really all that was doing was adding a block in the wall to try and bridge the gap between our squad quality depth versus other Championship squads. You look at the top end Championship squads from this season, your Ipswich's, your Southamptons, and they're £100+ million squads. So yes, it was a lot of money. It was a ridiculous amount of money for us, because it's like more in one window than we've ever spent in our entire history. But these are the numbers. This is the table we're now playing at. So it depends. Again, it's that whole internal conversation, isn't it? Of what do they want to do? Do they look at last season and say, well, we got that close last season, we really want to go for it next season? It wouldn't surprise me if it's a similar sort of figure again, 35 million quid, to be honest, because as well, like Daz just made the point, and it's a great point, a goalkeeper, a top quality Championship goalkeeper and a top quality Championship striker, you're probably not going to get a little change out of 25 million quid for those two. So, if you are then looking at bringing another 3 or 4 more players, there's not a lot of monopoly money left then, is there? So,
but maybe that's why he needs to go on the loan market more and go get from, as you already said earlier, that Bristol City goalkeeper was on loan from Man U. Quite possibly. Like you say, the history tells us that he doesn't really favour the loan market. Kabore was one exception to that. Maybe
who could still come back. He may still come back. He might have had such a good time and it worked.
I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe we do see, a couple of more loan players than we've been used to. But we'll see. But I think they will always favour trying to own the player, for want of a better phrase. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it's a similar figure to last summer, to be honest with you. And then what was your other question?
Well, you've already answered. How much you think are we going to spend? You said £1 million. So.
No, you asked me another question as well. How much are we going to spend and something else?
Yeah, whether we're going to do. Was that? I think that was it. Wasn't it?
No, you definitely asked me two questions. You asked me two questions.
Oh, are we going to do business earlier?
That's it. Early or late? Yeah. Yeah. See, I was totally listening to you.
Yeah, thanks.
I think I would love to say, and I would love to see us doing the bulk of our business earlier this time. I think in obviously previous windows over the last 4 or 5 years, since obviously Rob and Ryan have been at the club, we've become a little bit spoilt with transfer windows now, where we're so used to seeing players come into the football club for a fee instead of players coming into the football club for a happy meal, like it used to be a few years ago. We've become quite spoiled to it now. But one thing has become quite evident, and I don't know whether it's a deliberate tactic by the club, or whether it's because they feel they have to leave it till later in the window because otherwise they'll get stiffed for Wrexham tax or whatever. I don't know, but I think if January showed us anything, if the transfer window last summer, and obviously look at the Welcome to Wrexham episode we were talking about before, the kind of realization after a couple of games that we were still well short of what we needed. I think to give us the best chance of trying to start the season on the right foot, I think we ideally need the majority of what our playing squad is going to be in the door, so that they can have proper pre-season together.
The problem you have is we've got 5 pre-season friendlies from mid-July, and then we run straight into the start of the EFL Cup, and then we're into the season. And if you remember, we only got the last piece of the jigsaw right on the very end of August, after the season had already started. So that's the problem we're going to have.
The thing is, we ended up signing 3 players, didn't we, on deadline day? Because Sheaf, Hyam, and there was one other that we signed on deadline day, and obviously Callum Doyle we didn't sign until the season had started. So, again, without knowing how many they're seriously looking at, it's hard to know, isn't it? If your bullshit, football manager slide here is accurate, and they are going to be looking at 6 players, then you'd hope, or you'd think they're going to want to be looking at getting at least 4 of those in, but for pre-season. Certainly the goalkeeper and the striker, if those are accurate. But I don't know, lots of moving parts, isn't there? There's so much to it. It's dead easy for us to sit here and say, oh, we need this, we need that, we need the other. But as we're learning a little bit from the documentary, there's an awful lot goes into these player signings. And as Daz pointed out a minute ago, the money now is getting to a stage where it's like you're talking huge transfer fees, you're talking huge wages, huge what they call agents' fees and all the rest of it. So they're complicated things, but hopefully earlier in the window this time.
And then they get a free holiday to America, and then they get to play against some quality sides out in America. So it's
I wonder if there's any Southampton players who would be interested in joining us. Maybe we can send somebody to go and have a look. And there we are, over for another week. Next week, we hold the 4th annual Golden Potato Awards, where we all pick our favourite Wrexham and Cymru moments from the last season. And we look forward to the first of 2 Cymru friendlies, where we welcome Ghana in the official Football Association of Wales 150th anniversary match. Please let us know by the usual channels on social media, or by email. eatmillchipspodcast, all one word, at gmail.com, or you could send us a Morse code, for example. Tap it out, whatever that means. Whatever you think, it's fine. Thank you, obviously, to the two gentlemen who have had to listen to my Football Manager 26 waffle over the last half an hour. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Des.
I'm going to actually try that layout on actual Football Manager and see if it wins the league for you, and just see what happens.
Bet you it doesn't. Bet you it doesn't. But thank you very much. I've been Welshtechie, and of course, until next week, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Clinton, 1-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy has 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Alex Cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back promotions. Oh, can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast!